and welcome to the 495. I'm your host, Doug Sparks, editor-in-chief of Merrimack Valley magazine. Lou, I have a weird question for you.
Okay, great.
Do you like turkey? Do you enjoy the taste of turkey?
I do.
I hated turkey when I was growing up. And you know why I hated turkey?
Why?
Because my mother, who was a decent cook, would make this big deal about Thanksgiving dinner, and it was always this dry, like it was this thing that I felt like I somehow ought to enjoy. That I didn't enjoy because it was this dry, tasteless bird, and I didn't really like the gravy, and it never worked for me. I always dreaded Thanksgiving, which is supposed to be the holiday that everybody likes.
It's funny because I was telling a similar story about a different dish the other day. I grew up with an Irish-Italian family. My mother was Irish, and she would try to cook calamari on Christmas Eve. And it always came out with this watery sauce that took all the breading off the calamari, and the calamari was bare, and you could basically flip it like a rubber band across the room. I was in my 30s before I found out what calamari was really supposed to take like. And I said, hey, I like this, because I hated it as a kid.
Sure. Ultimately, I like cooking. I started cooking myself, and I smoked the turkey. I'm not doing it this year because of COVID.
You strike me, I can't decide whether you strike me as the guy or not. Did you ever... hot oil a turkey?
No, I never did that. I'm intrigued by it. I just, I think I would have, when that was at its peak, I was probably in New York City. I was probably living in apartments. And I knew the dangers and the risks of doing that. Ultimately, I got a smoker, and I, sort of enjoy doing that. I'm not doing it this year because I know that the restaurant industry is struggling in the face of COVID. So I ordered food from Cobblestones. I'm going to go pick up my Thanksgiving dinner later today from Cobblestones in Lowell.
Turkey's a staple. That's how I keep my girlish figure. It's turkey and chicken, and it's what I eat.
Well, we're talking turkey today. Our guest today is executive chef at Gibbet Hill. It's Brendan Pelley. You may know him from Hell's Kitchen, beat Bobby Flay, WGBH Food Fight, a number of reality shows. And Brendan, I must say, you're zooming in from Gibbet Hill right now, right?
Yeah, I'm at the.
But you somehow hit the lighting. It's like I'm looking at a Vermeer painting or something, because normally the lighting looks off, and this is a Dutch master.
You can see the beautiful hill up there. So.
Look at that production value.
I'm in the silo room, one of the small dining rooms we built in the old silo here.
Yeah. So, hey, what was my mom doing wrong with turkey? Why was it always so dry?
It sounds like your mom was doing the same thing as pretty much everyone else, which is roasting a whole turkey. And it's such a big bird, and it has the legs and the breast, two completely different types of meat that have two totally different cooking times and temperatures that they do better with. So by the time you cook, get your thighs cooked all the way through to the bone, your breast is completely dried out. And it's just so big. It's just so big that you need to brine a bird to really get some flavor, some moisture, some salt in there. There's a lot of little tips and tricks that you can work with turkey to make it not so terrible, not so boring. But it sounds like, smoking is really cool. That's a really great technique. My brother is one of those guys that does the deep fried turkey, which is awesome. I haven't done it myself, but he's got the big setup outside with the big butane burner, propane burner, and a giant pot filled with boiling oil. That comes out great. But what I'm doing this year at home, I'm going to be here at the restaurant. It's a huge day for us. Even with COVID this year, we have socially distanced dining in the restaurant and next door at the barn, which is usually our event space. And then we're doing a ton of takeout. We did pre-order pre-made Thanksgiving meals, which people are starting to pick up today. But this year in the restaurant, the way we're preparing our turkey is what I am doing at home, which is separating the breast from the legs. We brine the breast for about 48 hours, and then we slow roast it and then slice it. We cook the legs for a long time in a low oven in some of the brine as like a braising liquid. So the legs are just kind of falling apart off the bone, and we just end up picking all that dark meat right off the bone and serving it underneath the sliced turkey breast, and then all of the bones from carving the bird, like taking the breast and the legs off, you're left with the carcass. So you have all these bones and you have the wings. We roast all that, make turkey stock, and then make a giant batch of gravy, which for us means about 50 to 75 gallons of gravy that we're making here. So it's a lot.
Sure. What else is on the menu for tomorrow?
We have an a la carte menu here. So the traditional turkey dinner is one entree that people can choose, but we're doing a 3-course menu. So we have a number of appetizers, butternut squash soup, a few seasonal salads, duck confit, braised short rib, and then a few other things. And then in the entree portion, you can go with the turkey dinner, or we have steaks coming off the grill. We have some, dry aged steak. We have some cod. We have scallops. So local New England seafood. We're still serving produce from our farm. Even this late in the game, we still have turnips, beets, parsnips, rutabaga, radishes, sweet potatoes, leeks, kale. Yeah. We still have stuff coming off the farm and things that are cellaring nicely.
Yeah. So for people who don't know Gibbet Hill, haven't been down to Groton to check it out, I'm sure most local foodies have been there, but not everybody. So what is Gibbet Hill, and what is this farm you're talking about?
So we're a family-owned restaurant. The restaurant's been here for I want to say 16 years now. The Weber family owns it. They're local to Groton, and they purchased the land, Gibbet Hill in the background here, as well as a few hundred acres beyond this, to preserve that land so it wouldn't get developed. Part of the deal when they purchased that land for preserving the land was that they would retain a small amount of land to start a family business on. And that's what turned into Gibbet Hill Grill and the barn at Gibbet Hill next door, which is our wedding and function space. As well as the restaurant and the function space, we also have a 2.5-acre organic farm on property. And the farmers live here on property. They grow all of the produce for our restaurant, as well as our sister restaurants and our catering operation. So we also own Fireside Catering, the Bancroft in Burlington, we just Scarlet Oak Tavern down in Hingham, and this past year our newest project was Great Marsh Brewing, which is up in Essex. So the farm here is providing all of those restaurants and the catering division with all of their produce, as well as we're raising pigs and goats, lambs, and it's getting bigger every year. And it's just like a dream as a chef to work in a place like this, where you're on a working farm every day and coming in, and instead of thinking about your menu, like saying, hey, what do I want to put on my menu? You're coming into work and you're handed, the products that are going to define the menu for you. So it's a little different experience. It requires a little bit more thinking on your feet, but it's just awesome to have all this gorgeous stuff to work with on a daily basis.
Whose vision was that to make the restaurant like this as opposed to a more traditional restaurant? Does that come from the Weber family?
It's all the Webers. Steve Weber is the patriarch of the family. He was the original. The idea of purchasing the land. That was all him, and then his kids are running the day-to-day in the restaurant. Jed, Josh, and Kate, as well as their spouses too. They're all hands-on. They're in the building every day. I mean, especially a year like this. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a Weber working the dish station this year, like during the shutdown, just trying to keep takeout going, and trying to keep the community, fed with takeout food. Such a wild year. So it's really nice to work in a family-owned restaurant where the family is so involved in the day-to-day operation. I think Jed is really passionate about farm-to-table dining, and he's spearheaded a lot of the farm operation side in conjunction with the farmers that work on property.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it seems like a great fit for you. I mean, even before you were working here, I knew you as a forager, as a fellow mushroom hunter who was out on out looking around the woods on the weekend, and that, in a sense, it's a similar sensibility, right? Is going out and finding things and kind of thinking of menu items with your feet and your hands, and it's a completely different relationship than stuff just coming in boxes and in ice, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, much like getting out in the woods and where you're getting in touch with, the whole environment, and you might find some trout lily and some morel mushrooms, and see some trout in a brook nearby, and that will inspire a dish. The same thing happens here, where I come to work, and before I come into the kitchen, I can take a walk around the farm. I can see what's popping up at any given time, see what things are starting to grow, what things are blossoming, what things are going to seed, and letting that inform, the creative process.
Sure. So I'm going to ask you a question that I think would be fairly common if you were a woman, because I know that you happen to be a dad and you have young kids and you're doing a lot. How do you find work-life balance? What's that like, having to have young kids and everything that entails while also doing these amazing things at the restaurant?
I mean, that's tough. It's tough. I think that, I think this industry is just notoriously difficult for finding any sort of balance. I think that where I am now is probably the best amount of work-life balance I've had career-wise while operating a full-service restaurant. I think it comes back to working for a company that is family-owned, and it's by other people who have families. That's important. I think they understand, and they put a lot of value in employees that do have families. I mean, I want to provide for my family. I want to stay employed. I want to do a good job, because that's good for my family. And they know that working their employees to the bone, having, chefs that work 100 hours a week and don't see their family, is not good for their chefs. It's not good for morale. It's not good for your physical or mental well-being. And
may have frozen up there a little bit. We'll give him a second to come back.
We will give him a second.
Yeah.
And we come back, we're going to hit him with the reality TV show questions if we can get him. Brendan, I don't know if you can hear me.
French.
There we go.
He's coming back.
Yep.
Hey, we lost you for just a second. Hey, let's get into the reality TV show, because I'm sure people are reality TV show past, because I'm sure people are going to want to know about that.
Sure.
We're all positive here. So, out of all the people you worked with, these kind of famous, celebrity chefs, did you find anyone who was particularly inspirational or who surprised you in any way?
Yeah, Gordon Ramsay. That guy is so great. And he comes across, his persona on the Hell's Kitchen TV show is that he's, yelling and berating and all that. A lot of that is for show. A lot of it is his style managing his kitchen, which is like the old French style way of running a kitchen, like a drill instructor. But really, when the cameras are off, that guy is that level of intensity at all times, that he's always turned up to 11. He is fully engaged in everything that's happening in the restaurant. He's passionate. He's hilarious, and a really really great guy to be around. I would say that experience was just surreal too. He's one of those people who's, I've met a lot of famous people working in restaurants, but he's one of those people that when you do meet them and you actually spend time with them, they just seem larger than life. He's that kind of commanding presence.
Sure. It seems a lot of people who go through that reality TV show experience have mixed feelings about it. Where do you stand now? Are you willing to jump back if opportunities present themselves? Are you done with it? Where are you at?
No, I'm in the mixed feelings department. I mean, at the same time, it's reality TV is made for entertainment. So, people, not everyone can win. Some people's feelings are going to get hurt, in the name of ratings. It depends. I mean, I know that it was good for me for my career to get a little exposure on TV. I don't really need that right now. I might do it for fun. If the right show came along, or if someone wanted me to judge something, or it just sounded like a really fun experience. But it's not the top of my list of things I want to do with my free time right now.
Sure. What about other avenues of expression like writing? Have you ever thought about writing a cookbook or writing, something about your experiences in the food industry?
Yeah, I've thought about it. I'm not the best writer. It's been a while since I've written anything, but I do compile recipes and I take notes about where I'm at in my career when I'm maybe writing a certain menu. So maybe someday I'll compile that into something meaningful, but really it's just stacks and stacks of old recipes right now that are collecting dust.
Yeah. When you're not at the restaurant, when you're not at Gibbet Hill, where do you like to eat?
Oh, geez.
A little bit of again. Issue there again.
We'll have to go over to his Instagram, bowl of tripe, and check out some of the places. Oh, is he coming back?
He is back.
We lost you for another second.
Sorry, bad Wi-Fi.
It happens.
I think in the Boston area, I love all of Jamie Bissonette and Ken Oranger's restaurants, Copa, Toro, Uni. I love Anna Sorton. Her restaurant Oleana is one of my go-tos, and Sofra. And then I love getting up to Portland, Maine. I love going to New York City. I love going to Montreal. I love traveling and eating, and I love going into Lowell and going to some of the small Cambodian restaurants, Thai restaurants, Vietnamese restaurants. I eat anything that's good.
Sure.
Really.
Are there any food trends that particularly excite you that you're seeing now? Or is this even a trend year? I mean, it's such a strange time that it's like, I think the discussions around food trends 2 years ago would, some of them might seem almost kind of silly right now because we have other matters that are more pressing than molecular gastronomy or something like that, right?
Yeah. The trend right now is survival, and trying to support each other, and just trying to figure out how we can drive sales enough to not bleed money and to stay alive. We're trying to walk the line between public safety and keeping the businesses open. And business owners right now aren't really thinking about making money. They're trying to mitigate losses and keep their employees paid. And it's really difficult. And even a restaurant of this size, that is a well-loved restaurant and has, we have a clientele that is built in at this point and a community to serve. It's really tough. And, this has been a wild year. I hope I never see anything else like this in my career. And I hope that people will, if they don't feel comfortable going out, I totally understand that. But I do hope, like you said, you're going to support Cobblestones this holiday. That's great. Scott's a really great guy, and he's doing the same thing as all of us. He's trying to do the best he can with what we're dealing with. So I do recommend, getting takeout, trying to support restaurants any way you can. It's not about the restaurant owners. It's about all the people that work in these restaurants. We had over 100 employees furloughed here during the main part of the shutdown. And we did what we could. We collected any tips that we got from takeout. We put into a pool and cut checks for all the people that were furloughed. We're all just in survival mode. So yeah, it's the trends aren't really happening. The chefs aren't out doing the PR circuit right now. It's just like not a thing. Everyone's just trying to get by.
Sure.
It's a wild year.
Yeah. So something that I know some people are going to be thinking about tomorrow and this week that's also something I wanted to raise with you is fitness, because I follow you on Instagram, Bowl of Tripe, and I know you run half marathons, and I know you have a recent interest in kickboxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I wanted to ask you how this fits into this whole picture. Do you need to work out a lot because of the nature of your work, whether from stress or caloric intake, and where does that interest come from?
Yeah, both. I kind of got into taking care of myself around like the height of the stressfulness of my career, where things were starting to take off. I was really starting to build my career, and I was working my tail off to make a name for myself. And I was working those crazy hours. Like I was, doing 100 hours a week, and I was stress eating. The only joy I was getting out of life, but when I wasn't around my family, was like literally eating. And I was packing on the pounds and totally stressed out, not sleeping enough, drinking too much coffee. And I was like having panic attacks at the restaurant.
Yeah.
So I started running slowly at first, jogging. And then running turned into weightlifting. I started to lose some of the weight. I started to feel better. Started to get a little balance in the work home life balance, and it's taken off from there. I mean, I think I'm a different person than I used to be now. With I'm on a day off now, instead of going to a restaurant and crushing, 7 courses of fatty food, I might go for a jog in the morning, do a kickboxing session in the afternoon, and then, do a yoga session at night with my wife. And she's been a big part of my health journey too. She's been really supportive in exercising and fitness and meditation, really doing whatever we can to try to stay healthy and stay sane. And we both, when the first shutdown happened, we used to go to the gym together a lot. The first thing we did was build a home gym in our basement, just so we could, hold on to that. Like, we really need to exercise to stay grounded and stay sane and stay healthy.
Yeah. This summer, you and I, we went foraging a little bit. We didn't really find anything, but we got to spend some time in the woods together. And you said something interesting that I wanted to ask you about, because we were talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and kickboxing, and you've been going to Mass BJJ down in Acton. It's a Jiu-Jitsu kickboxing school. And you talked about the owner, Nate Ryan. I know Nate personally. I've trained there in the past. And Nate is an interesting guy because he's very unassuming. He's very gentle-mannered, and you wouldn't guess by looking at him, unless maybe you see the cauliflower in his ears, that he's the deadliest guy in the room, right? He does not come across as the guy who's been doing jiu-jitsu for so long and is, kind of a top-level, elite-level jiu-jitsu guy. And you said something about Nate, that he runs his jiu-jitsu school and his kickboxing classes like you run your kitchen. And I'm wondering what you meant by that.
Well, I think it's his leadership style and his training style is, like you said, unassuming, and kind of gentle. I think that just because you have the knowledge doesn't mean you have to, be a jerk about it. I think he treats everyone that walks into Mass BJJ with respect. And, it's very much like if I have a cook who's walking in here, I walked in to train jujitsu with some karate background, but really knowing nothing about jujitsu kind of late in life. Like I'm in my 40s now. And that can be intimidating, especially when you have, black belts in their 20s, that are training with you. But I received nothing but respect there. And that's something that I try to treat my cooks with respect as well. I might have the more cooking experience than them, but I find that I can learn just as much from a cook walking in here that I know nothing about, or one of my dishwashers, as they can learn from me. And it's all about having an environment of respect and, having a learning environment and, a positive workplace or a positive place to train is very important. And I come from a lot of kitchens where I found that wasn't the case in my past. And it drove me out of a lot of kitchens. Like there was a ton to learn, but I don't need to learn that if people are going to be a jerk about it. Like life's too short. So
sure. So Lou usually has questions at the end of the show. I'm going to see if Lou has any questions for you, because I know you're short on time, and I'm extremely thankful because I know this is like a crazy busy day for you. I'm a little bit amazed you were even able to carve out time to come and join us today. So thank you. There's a little Thanksgiving right there. Thanks for coming on. Lou, do you have any questions for our guest before he has to get back into the kitchen?
Yeah, I have a couple, and hopefully they're quick. Brendan, you have the night off, and it's kind of unexpected, but the wife and kids are out. You have the house to yourself. You're not going to go out to a restaurant. You do have a little time to shop if you want to on the way home. What are you making for dinner?
Oh, geez. My go-to, favorite thing to cook at home, which is fairly quick, and I usually have ingredients on hand, is fresh pasta. So if I have some good flour and I have some eggs, throw together some homemade pasta and roll out some pappardelle or something. And
you'll make the pasta. You'll go home and make the pasta.
Oh, hell yeah. 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 It's such a great skill to learn. It's like, you just need a couple eggs and some flour and watch a couple tutorials on YouTube. It's like such a good skill to learn how to do. And it's so therapeutic. And it's just like the best thing. Like bread and butter and fresh pasta are probably my favorite foods. That's like my comfort food.
All right, at the restaurant, when you're putting a meal together, you talked about your fitness and your concerns, and I don't know if we lost Brendan or not. You talk about your fitness and your concerns, and when you put a meal together, does that play into the meal that you put together, or is it taste at all costs?
Depends on the circumstances. On a daily basis, I try to eat healthy, so I might eat like some protein, like a piece of fish or chicken or something like that, or even a steak sometimes, and some vegetables or a salad. But sometimes I want to go all out and do the seared foie gras and the roasted bone marrow and butter poached lobster and stuff like that. It's easy to make things taste good with fat and salt, but it's more important to get a varied diet and eat lots of vegetables and different types of things. And I'm really lucky because I am privileged to be able to do that. I have a restaurant full of really good ingredients, so it's easy for me to eat healthy if I choose to. It's also easy for me to eat very poorly and choose the dessert and choose the corn butter every day if I choose to. So it does require a little self-control. And
I'll leave you with this one. A restaurant in Newburyport was actually a high-end diner. in Newburyport taught me what I want in restaurants and what I want from guys like you, because I would go in on a Saturday or Sunday morning and they would have the regular breakfast fare, but there would always be a chef's menu, and the chef's menu would have regular breakfast with an ingredient or two that I never would have paired with all the stuff that was going on. It was just totally out there, and it didn't reshape the meal. It didn't make waffles different. It didn't make French toast different. It was just like, wow, I wouldn't have put that with that, but it always worked out great. How do you guys get those inspirations where there's this taste that, like, for example, Thanksgiving, what could I throw into a Thanksgiving meal that would be totally different, but still would be interesting? How do you come up with those inspirations? Because the rest of us don't think that way.
Oh, man. I think it all comes down to like life experience and, your cooking background and where you are. My Thanksgiving go-to is always spinach pie, which is spanakopita, the dish. That's like my holiday go-to food because of the Greeks in my family like passed that down. My mom is Irish as can be. But I'm a mutt from Lowell. Like I come from a Greek family and Irish family. And my papu passed the spanakopita recipe down to my mom. My mom makes the spinach pie every year. She already made it on Sunday. I swung by her house and picked some up. And, that translates into all the food that I cook. Like I might put a little Greek flair and some like, typical New England cuisine. So I don't know. It's a personal thing for all different chefs, I think.
Cool. Well, I know you have to get going. I really, really appreciate you coming on today. And, this has been great. Our guest today was Executive Chef Brendan Pelley from Gibbet Hill in Groton. Brendan, thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Great to see you. Nice talking to you. And hope you all have a great holiday.
You too. All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.